Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So tonight was another fantastic episode of Star Trek Discovery. This was the 10th episode and it really revealed just a ton of stuff. We now know who the Red Angel is, and of course we will get to that later. But I have to say this episode was just all around really riveting, edge of your seat kind of episode, and it left me really just thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta wait a whole nother week till I see, how this is kind of resolved. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and get right into it. We start the episode with the funeral for Arium, and it's really well done and it's really moving. But I gotta say that I wish this was more for a character that we knew better. We really didn't know Arium that much. Yes, we got a lot of information on her in the previous episode, and you really did feel for the character. But this funeral is probably one of the biggest funerals I've seen on Star Trek, maybe aside from Spock's and like what is it, the search for Spock. I can't remember if it's at the end of Wrath of Khan or if it's at the beginning of the search for Spock. But anyways, regardless, this is, very, like, the whole first part of the episode is just this funeral, and it's very moving, and people are talking a lot about Arium and giving speeches. And like I said, it was very big and very moving, but again, I just felt like if this should have been for a character that we knew a little bit better, because it didn't hold as much meaning, I guess, to, but I don't know. It was something new. I couldn't help but wonder, though, they shoot your body kind of out into space, and it kind of makes me wonder what happens after that. Does the pod that they're in, does it disintegrate? Does it break down? What are you just going to be flying through space and you kind of like bump into one of them? That, because that would be all kinds of awkward. After the funeral, Burnham and Ash kind of have a moment in one of the turbo lifts. There's several little scenes between them in this episode. It's very awkward between them, obviously, because of their history, and he's trying to make amends with her, and she's just kind of her stoic self. She's let him in once, he's betrayed her, and she's got her guard up. After that, there's a bit of a meeting between some of the higher ups on the Discovery, and they're talking about how to put a stop to this artificial intelligence that's taken over command, and they're also wanting more information about the Red Angel. Tilly comes in and says that after doing like a diagnostic over Arium, and they have found a biosignature in there that somehow belongs to the Red Angel. They've figured this out, and the biosignature matches that of Burnham's. And so they're saying that the Red Angel is in fact Burnham, which a lot of people have speculated that that's who it was going to be. So this wasn't a complete shock, but of course it is to Burnham and everyone else in the room. After thoroughly examining Burnham, they have kind of theorized that it sort of makes sense that the Red Angel would be a future version of Burnham, considering every time she has appeared, it was sort of to protect Burnham, and thus being kind of like the grandfather clause where, if you were in the future and you did have the ability to time travel, obviously you would interfere anytime it threatened your livelihood, which is, something happening to your past self. So they're thinking that that does make sense, and also that, she's giving, she's trying to help, with this future threat of, AI taking over every part of sentient life. Section 31 arrives, and it's Leyland and Giorgio. They arrive on the ship, and they're proposing a theory that, they don't really know much about this AI system, but they can trap or set a trap for the Red Angel. And this is where they've come to kind of help out to, figure out how they can set that trap. Leyland tells them that 20 years in the past, they had some information that the Klingons were trying to put together some kind of time-traveling device, and therefore they found themselves kind of in a temporal arms race. They were trying to find the same technology, and they created Project Daedalus, which Arium said revolved all around Burnham right before she died in the last episode. So Leyland is telling them this technology is actually Starfleet's. Burnham is not convinced that Leyland is telling them the truth about everything, so she confronts Georgiou about this, and Georgiou just kind of tells her, it's not her secret to tell, that she needs to look elsewhere for those answers. Burnham goes to Leyland and basically just, tells him she needs answers, she deserves answers, and he reveals to her that her parents actually worked for him. He was the one in control of Project Daedalus, and her parents were actually, sort of undercover, which Burnham doesn't believe this at first. She says her parents weren't, they didn't have those skills, but apparently they did, and he tells her that, they were the ones who built the suit that the Red Angel wears, and that they were sort of looking for something. He called it a time crystal, and I don't know what that was, but every time he said time crystal, it kind of took me out of it. I thought it sounded weird. But they were looking for this time crystal, and that's what ultimately led to their deaths at the hands of the Klingons. And of course, Burnham is realizing all this has happened. For years, I think she sort of blamed herself, because she thought that the reason they went to the place where they were actually killed was because she wanted to see like a supernova, but it turns out there was another reason why they were there. That's where they thought the time crystal was. So I guess in some ways it's a shock to Burnham, but it's also a weight off of her shoulders because she's blamed herself for this. But, after Leyland tells her all this, she punches him, once for her mother and once for her father. After her confrontation with Leyland, Burnham runs into Ash, and she's questioning him as, did he know? He tells her he didn't know about her parents. Now, whether he did or he did not, I don't really know. I guess that's for only him to know. But she blames him for that, and then she says, how can you work for these people? And he tells her that, while he doesn't always agree with Section 31, they are working towards something that he does agree with. Their main goal, whatever that may be. Burnham is trying to blow off some steam, and Spock shows up, and they actually have a really long talk about basically how he forgives her. He accepts her apology, which for Spock is, the equivalent of, forgiving her, and, like a big emotional, forgiveness. That's really all he can provide. But he does tell her, that he understands. And I think after this that they're pretty good. And I was glad that this finally happened. I was kind of tired of him being so cold to her, especially over something that happened to them as children. After this meeting with Spock, Burnham kind of realizes, she goes to Pike and Georgiou, and she says, the only way we're going to be able to capture the Red Angel is if we put my life in danger. And although they have some reservations at first, she says, we have to do this. So they are going to go down to this planet where they originally worked on some specifications for Daedalus, and they need all this power to capture the Red Angel. But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to practically kill Burnham in order for the Angel to arrive. So they're going to go to this planet. They're going to pretty much just strap her down to a chair and, vent all the oxygen in the atmosphere. It's deadly, without the protection. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to have everybody on standby, but basically she has to be pretty much on the brink of death for this to all happen. Now, as they are getting all this set up, Burnham is kind of saying some goodbyes maybe, or she just needs some comfort, and she goes to Ash. She tells him that she's scared. He says he's scared. They end up kissing and, kind of, I guess, resolving this fight that's between them, or this tension. Down on the planet, they go ahead and they get Burnham strapped in for this, and everybody's on standby. The Section 31 is going to close the wormhole that the Red Angel uses to transport through time once she does appear. But they do everything they have to vent the atmosphere, and Burnham begins to, be in extreme amounts of pain. Nothing is happening. The Red Angel doesn't appear to be coming, and at the last minute, they're going to try to save her. They're going to try to jump in there, but Spock tells them no. He actually, like pulls out his phaser rifle or phase, not maybe a rifle, but his phaser. And he tells them, they can't do this. This is what Burnham wants. And you pretty much think that she's not going to make it. But at the very last minute, the Red Angel does appear. The Section 31 cuts off the wormhole. They use all of their power to kind of contain the Red Angel. And as the very end of it, the Red Angel kind of falls down, and the suit is kind of coming open, and you kind of get your first view at it. It's a woman, looks very similar to Burnham. And my first thought was, wow, they really did a really good job with picking an actress who looked like she could be a slightly older version of Burnham. But then when Burnham does look at this person, she just simply says, "Mom." And then you kind of piece it together. This is Burnham's mother. She's not dead. And, this is kind of one of those cliche, if you've watched a lot of other shows, sometimes parents come back from the dead, that kind of thing. But I have to say with this one, I really wasn't expecting this. I had kind of figured, okay, yes, it's Burnham from the future. That is kind of typical science fiction. But I'd never really given a second thought to the fact that maybe Burnham's parents weren't dead, or at least one of them. So her mother is alive, and her mother is the Red Angel, and her mother has been on some kind of a mission. We see briefly in the preview for the next episode some information there. But I have to say, I was actually very surprised at this, and for me, a lot of things on television rarely actually surprise me anymore, but this one did, so, good for them. And that's kind of how you leave the episode. So it was really good. I'm definitely looking forward to next week. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, and I really hate that because I've really just loved this season so much. But, all good things do come to an end. But anyways, I'm going to leave this one here. I highly recommend checking this out. Definitely check this out on CBS All Access. It's pretty great this season. Definitely worth a view. Anyways, I will leave this one here, and I will see you guys back next week with another recap. Thanks. Have a good one.